Good evening and welcome to the City of Joliet Pre-Council meeting for Monday, December 4th with the Honorable Terry Darcy, Mayor presiding.
We'll begin with roll call. Mayor Darcy.
Here.
Councilman Cardenas.
Here.
Councilman Clement.
Here.
Councilman Guerrero.
Here.
Councilman Hug.
Here.
Councilwoman Ibarra.
Here.
Councilman Mudron.
Here.
Councilwoman Quillman.
Here.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Here.
First on the agenda this evening is a presentation, report of Public Works infrastructure projects.
Thank you. I see you never.
Good evening, Councilman Hug. That I asked that I provide an update of where we're at on public work infrastructure reports for 2023. Just a couple caveats before I start. A lot of our projects are multi-year projects. Some of the motor fuel tax projects in particular can span numerous years. And there's a number of items in our update here that are sort of placeholders for when the design is complete or when construction is set to begin. And then the other thing is our payments are typically a month in arrears. So this is really through the beginning of November. We've had a lot of work take place in November that is probably not reflected on this report. So I won't go through this line by line, but some of the items that we've been working on are the Chicago Street Vaulted Walk project, which you've seen occurring in anticipation of the Chicago Street Streetscape project. There's some of these projects that have been delayed due to the inability to get materials, and they'll move forward when we get those. A number of projects, some of the smaller projects are complete. The uninterruptible power supply for traffic signals, decorative streetlight pole painting project, culvert replacement project. And then the sidewalk program is ongoing. We had about close to 1.2 million under contract and about 480,000 complete as of the beginning of November. There was more work in November there. And then the roadway resurfacing program, we did have a large amount in there. We awarded a couple contracts earlier this year. There was a bit of a delay from the contractors getting started on some of those. For whatever reason, those will carry into next year. And then we did award, or will be awarding rather, 2 contracts for additional paving work that will take place in early 2024 using 2023 dollars. The cycle we've gotten onto for resurfacing is sort of issue a contract late in the previous year for work to take place in the spring. We found that we're getting better prices doing that, and then awarding additional contracts, say a little bit later in the spring for completion of those projects later the following year. The motor fuel tax project, again, a lot of these projects have money appropriated but haven't moved forward yet. Theodore Street bridge replacement, a number of these bridge replacement projects are on that schedule. Farrell Road bridge replacement project. And then some of the neighborhood construction projects, we've awarded contracts that they haven't really started yet. Cora Street was, you see there's $5,000 of work completed out of a $250,000 contract or so. That project is pretty much done at this point, so that's one of those cases where we're not really caught up because the payments haven't been processed through yet. And then there are a number of other roadway reconstructions that are under contract and are scheduled for work next year due to either utility delays or contractor delays or whatever it might be. So with that, I can answer any questions you might have on these items.
Mayor? Sure. So just so people understand, we're going to be doing $2023 in 2024. Just like earlier this year, we had some 2022 resurfacing and sidewalk dollars spent when the weather broke.
Correct.
To finish up, we're going to be behind because of the sheer volume.
Yes, that's correct.
I mean,
there's
we've
a
never
limited
had
number
this
of
level of
contractors.
financing before, funding
Yes.
for these projects. So
Yeah.
we're getting there, but all of last year's money will be spent, right?
That's correct, yeah.
And
all of next
year. And all this year, next year, 2024, all of this year's money will be spent. And all of next year, 2024 will be spent, so.
That's correct. It may carry over year to year. We are putting out a larger volume of work than we have in the past on resurfacing sidewalks, et cetera. And the state has also put a lot of money into this area on Interstate 80 and other projects. And, there's a limited number of contractors in the area. So I'm not saying they pick and choose because they go after everything. because of the sheer volume of work, it might not be in the as quick a fashion as it has been in the past, but the work will be completed.
And for the people that would take time to look at this, they need to understand that the budgeted amount of 12.6, that is the general fund budgeted amount, which was something really new for us.
Correct.
And then they have to look down at the 4.4 amount, which is motor fuel tax for resurfacing.
That's correct.
You put it both together, you're at 17 million.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to clarify. Well, keep it going.
All right, thank you.
Next is citizens to be heard on agenda items. Is there anyone that would like to speak on an agenda item this evening? Seeing none, the city manager will now review tomorrow's agenda items.
I have a question. I signed the vote. Is that when I speak?
If it's not on something on our agenda to vote on, it would be at the end of the meeting under public comments.
Very good, thanks, Krista. All right, we'll walk through tomorrow's agenda. We'll have a presentation on the Joliet Police Explorers recognition. And then the mayor has appointments, reappointments to the library board and an appointment to the Committee on Citizens with Disabilities for your consideration. Council committee reports from Land Use and Legislative, Public Safety, and Public Service Committee. On the consent agenda, we will have minute approvals from November 20th and 21st, invoices to be paid as of on 12/5. And then we'll get into our council memos. The first one is Council Memo 635-23. This is an award of contract for the 2024-2025 citywide newsletter to Liberty Creative Solutions in the amount of $201,528. This is a 2-year contract, so this is for the quarterly printed newsletters we do. There'll be 4 then in 24 and 4 again in 25. Same way we did them in the past year, with the first 4 pages in English and then translated into Spanish on the next 4 pages. Any questions on that item? Again, this was reviewed at Public Service and recommended for your approval.
Go ahead, Caesar.
Does that include the postage on those? Or is that just the design and printing of those?
That's the total, yes.
Mail and everything? Yep. Thank you.
You know, we talked about this earlier, though. We should take a look at a digital portion of this as well. This is all paper, isn't it, Ron?
It is, yes.
Yeah.
So this gets mailed out to every
Right.
mailing address in the city, as well as another few thousand copies that are placed in locations, the city hall, the libraries, et cetera, for pickup.
I wonder if they have the capacity to do some digital with that. We'll talk to them about that, but, you know, that's kind of the way things are going. Not for me, but for most people.
Understood.
Thanks.
Next item is Council Memo 636-23. This is purchase of anti-icing, de-icing fluids for the 23-24 snow removal season. The recommendation then is purchase of 60,000 gallons of BioMelt Supreme from SNI Solutions at a total cost of $165,000, and the purchase of 40,000 gallons of calcium chloride from Industrial Systems Ltd. at a total cost of $25,400. Any questions on that? Next item is Council Memo 637-23. This is award of a professional services contract for the underground storage tank design, installation, and startup for both of our Cass Street fuel stations and the Cedarwood fuel stations. The awardee is Petroleum Technologies Equipment, Inc., and the amount is $1,519,925. Public Service reviewed it November 20th and recommended it for council full approval. Questions?
So basically, these are 2 $750,000 gas stations, in a sense?
Fueling centers, yep. All of our fleet vehicles and city hall vehicles all go there for fuel. I know you had asked earlier when we had met, Mayor, and I asked Greg Ruddy to provide what our annual usage is or pumping. So in the full year of 2022, we pumped 345,000 gallons of unleaded and 174,000 gallons of diesel.
How many diesel gallons?
174,000. And the numbers will be similar again in 2023.
And this is replacing old equipment or adding new?
Replacing the old equipment.
Completely replacing. Thank you.
Next item is memo 638-23, award of a professional service agreement for the Spring Creek Siphon Preliminary Engineering to Seco Consultants. The amount is $43,660. After prior work we had done to televise all of our sanitary sewer, creek, and river crossings, the 30-inch Spring Creek interceptor at Columbia and the Canadian National Railroad. This is a 5-foot by 1-foot box culvert. The televising showed that it was buckling and restricting flow, and there's concern for its imminent failure. So this is a design project to start a siphon replacement for that, that piece of box culvert. Reviewed at public service on the 20th of November and recommended for your approval. Next council memo is 639-23, professional services agreement for the development of Project Docs E-Plan for the city of Joliet to Evolve Software. The amount is $72,483.75. Project Docs is a system we have been using for about a year and a half in the building department for reviewing and communicating on all building permit submittals and comments and responses. Public Works and Public Utilities have also begun to utilize the software. Essentially, they have requested the software provider to develop a workflow system for how they would use it in Public Works and Public Utilities, and that's what these fees would go to do. Again, reviewed by Public Service on the 20th and recommended for your approval. Any questions? Next item is 640-23. This is approval of repair to the well 12D pump to Lane Christensen, and the amount is $31,416. Public Service reviewed it at the 20th of November meeting and recommended it for your approval. Next item is Council Memo 641-23. This is to approve repairs to the 2006 VanCon Sewer Jetter Vacuum Combo Truck to EJ Equipment, Inc. in the amount of $55,097.75. The debris tank on this vehicle has been, is taken out of service because the debris tank is corroded and deteriorated. Replacement vehicle would be $450,000. This replacement of the tank is $55,097, and the vehicle can stay in service that way. Again, reviewed by Public Service and recommended for your approval. Next is 642-23. This is change order number 1 for the 2023 sidewalk curb replacement program. Contract C to J&J Newell Concrete in the amount of $39,216. Again, reviewed at Public Service and recommended for your approval. Essentially accounts for a balancing of quantities on the overall contract, additional pavement patching that was required, and large tree root removal that was encountered during utility conflicts. The next item is Council Memo 643-23. This is change order number 1 for the Lawrence Avenue Lift Station rehabilitation to Alberico Construction in the amount of $14,760. This is a reduction of $14,760. Again, reviewed by Public Service and recommended for your approval. Next item is Council Memo 644-23, change order number 1 for the 2022 sanitary rehab program to Performance Pipelining, Inc. Again, this is a decrease in the contract amount of $619,402.10, and also we're requesting final payment number 9 in the amount of $293,293.53.
Ron, you said that original contract was $3.5 million?
3.5 million, just over 3.5 million, yes.
Thank you.
Next item is Council Memo 645-23, change order number 2 for the 2022 electrical maintenance contract to Van Mack Electric. The amount of the change order is an increase of $64,120, and payment request number 7 is here as well, and the amount is $67,664. The increase amount is due to having to relocate traffic signal cabinet at Caton Farm and Ridge Road that was in above where a water main break occurred. So the cabinet was permanently relocated. Next item is Council Memo 646-23, change order number 3 for the lead water service line replacement Phase 3C project to Stipp Brothers Excavating in the amount of $151,745.40. Again, reviewed at public service on November 20th, recommended for your approval. This is to add an additional approximately 20 more service line replacements under the current contract unit prices. Next item is 647-23, change order number 3 for the 2023 sidewalk curb replacement project, contract A to Davis Concrete in the amount of $13,385. Again, reviewed at public service on November 20th, recommended for your approval. There's a number of items that dealt with installation of a retaining wall, additional curb installation due to an ADA ramp replacement, and another ADA ramp related issue on Buell that accounted for the change order. Next is Council Memo 648-23, change order number 8 for the 2021 sanitary rehab program to Performance Pipelining, Inc. Again, this is a decrease in the amount of $489,538.07 and a request for final payment number 17 in the amount of $735,000.92. Next item is Memo 649-23. This is payment number 4 and final for the 2022 resurfacing contract C to Austin Tyler Construction in the amount of $614,335.48. Again, reviewed by public service on the 20th and recommended for approval. So this will close out that 2022 contract with Austin Tyler.
Mayor, and just to illustrate what Greg was referring to earlier, that's a good example of it, correct, Greg? That's 2022's. That was last year's that we finished up and we're now finishing and paying on it. The money does get spent. Sometimes it's delayed because of the availability of contractors and labor.
That's correct.
Okay. Just thought it was a good idea to point that out. Thank you. Thank you.
So that concludes the items on the consent agenda. Are there any questions before we move on? All right, we have nothing showing on the agenda relative to licenses and permits. Also, there's no public hearings tomorrow. So we'll move on to ordinances and resolutions. The first item is Council Memo 651-23. This is an ordinance approving a special use permit to allow a women's opioid addiction supportive living facility at 1301 Copperfield Avenue. This project is being proposed by Volunteers of America, Illinois, and it'll be called Hope Manor Village, Joliet. It's a 48-unit housing development consisting of 1 and 2 bedroom units located on the former Silver Cross Hospital campus. The entire design of the project is will be for recovery-based, gender-responsive, and trauma-informed to serve the future residents. It's a 2.1 acre parcel. VOA, as you all recall, is the company that developed the Veterans Housing Project across the street from where this facility is proposed, and they will rely to some extent on some of the facilities and capacity that they have at that existing development. This went to ZBA on October 19th, 2023. It was recommended for approval to you with 6 yes votes and no members of the ZBA voting no. There was 1 written objection filed by an adjoining neighbor who lives on Copperfield. I know we have representatives from VOA and Silver Cross both here tonight. Nancy Hughes Moyer is here from VOA, as well as her architect, and we have Mike Muter, interim president at Silver Cross, here if you have any questions for them, or if you guys wanted to make any formal presentation or not.
I have a question for Silver Cross, if it's okay.
Sure.
I just wanted to ask if, I'm right over here.
Oh, sorry.
I just wanted to ask if you were in support of the project.
We
That's
definitely are,
basically it.
yeah, we definitely are in support of the project and feel that this would be a great addition to that campus and, continue to support the community in the way that they have already.
Thank you, and thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
I guess my question would be, so this property is part of the original Silver Cross campus. Is there much of that campus left that hasn't been sold, or?
So I don't want to misspeak, but I believe about 30 acres. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so about 30 acres that are still available.
Any long-range plans for that at this time, or
Not at this moment, no.
It is being marketed.
is it being marketed?
It's been listed. I think it's with NAI Hiffman still as the listing agent on the property. So that, what's left, Councilman, is essentially the frontage you see along Maple and Walnut, the old lower level kind of parking lot area and where the main bed tower was. This project would kind of complete everything that's on the upper level of being redeveloped. We had in the past the Aunt Martha's Health Facility built there, then the Hope Manor Veterans Housing Project. Obviously, the Emergency Department was taken over by the Veterans Administration. So, does that answer your question?
Does.
I have a question. I'd like to know what's gonna happen with that disastrous rumble of building that's half torn off. It's been sitting like that for years, that faces Route 30. It's a disaster.
We've been in,
Route 6, excuse me, yes, Route 6.
we've been in regular communication with the VA, most recently is last week, asking them when they can take that down. They're telling us right now it will be in the spring of 2024 is their plan. We continue to push them to do this. The agreement originally, it should have been down already, but working with the VA, they have been slow to act on that. So we are in constant communication, trying to get that done.
What if it doesn't happen next year, then what?
It is legally their responsibility to do it. We will continue to push to have it done.
Well, what's our recourse if they don't do it then? You said legally it's their responsibility, but they haven't taken care of it. So this has been going on for years now, since the hospital's gone and they tore it down after that.
The only recourse we would have is if we wanted to take suit against the VA.
Okay. Thank you.
Mayor?
Sure.
Ron, it's 46 units?
48.
48 units, so roughly just shy of 23 units per acre. And our ordinance allows for 10 units per acre on multifamily. So they're looking for a high-density exception on this.
It's proposed for 48 units on, yes, 2.1 acres.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor,
Sure.
out of the 48 units, I mean, are we gonna have veterans that are gonna be in all these units, all 48?
So across the street is a veterans specific housing development. This is not specific to veterans, although because we are one of the largest providers of veteran services, we tend to be the sort of a first stop for any veteran struggling with any host of issues. So we certainly do expect that there will be a meaningful percentage of the people that are served by this facility who will also be veterans. But our target population is women with children who are in recovery from addiction. The primary goal of this project is to make sure that kids can be raised by their mom and that addiction does not become a reason why children, are no longer raised by their mom or obviously lose their moms altogether. So the veteran status is not a requirement for this project, but we do, obviously because of the continuum of services we offer to veterans, we suspect that we will see a high number of female veterans who are also served by this project.
So I'm assuming that the funding for this project there's some federal dollars, state dollars?
There's a combination of both federal and state, yes.
So there would be no guarantee that Joliet residents will be utilizing this facility, or Will County, I mean?
No, when you do a housing development, you have to submit a tenant selection plan as a condition of your funding. And the tenant selection plan establishes essentially almost concentric circles. And so a waiting list would be prioritized geographically for residents of Will County. One of our the two primary referral sources will be the Will County Problem Solving Courts and the DCFS field office in Joliet. And again, these are 48 units. This is not transitional housing in the sense that there's a churn, every 6 months. And so we, expect that well near 100% of these individuals will be residents of Will County. The reason, just because we have somebody, has available land, if we don't think that there's a need and a use in that geography, we wouldn't just build it to build it somewhere where there happens to be land to do it. We have to do our research and make sure that there's a demonstrated need for what we're trying to do. And so we extensively reviewed particularly the non-fatal and fatal overdose data for Will County. And it was really abundantly clear that there was a high enough use within Will County and even specifically in Joliet for a project of this size. We wouldn't propose to build 180 units, but we really feel like the need definitely supports the size of the facility we're trying to build.
And thank you for the Veterans Home too, across the street. I want to say that publicly. How many other projects do you have like this around the country? Or
well, I don't speak for the country.
no, I mean,
So, one of the things one of the reasons that we're trying to do this is because there's something out there called family-focused recovery now. People recognize that women's treatment from addiction requires a specific kind of approach, and it has to reflect the reality that they are often mothers in addition to being moms, and so that has to be part of the treatment strategy. And so there are a number of treatment facilities out there, inpatient treatment facilities, that allow mothers to get treatment with their children. These are anywhere from 8 weeks to maybe 16 weeks at the high end. The data suggests that women have a remarkably high success rate with inpatient treatment. They also have a very high rate of relapse after inpatient treatment that often ties directly to the lack of supportive housing for them that will directly support them in their recovery. And so that's the specific need that we're trying to meet. We have a lot of facilities that target people that are dealing with addiction histories and are in recovery, and we've been very successful in doing that. This would be the first program that's very specific to targeting women with children, really at that critical point of interception where they're coming out of or recently coming out of successful inpatient treatment, so that we can really provide the kind of supportive environment that will really enable them to be successful in their recovery, both in the short term and in the long term. We don't expect people to live there the rest of their lives. I know at the ZBA we were asked some questions about what do we think the length of stay is. I think it will be anywhere from probably a year to 3 years. 3 years at the high end, but probably most people would be averaging 1 to 2 years. Again, we really focus on service intensive housing so that people don't need that level of support forever. And again, these are often going to be, young people who are very capable of, once they're stabilized, of moving back out into the community and being really successful and contributing members of the community.
thank you for that. For me, I want to take care of Joliet residents, and that's why we're elected to be up here. And I mean, I don't know if there's a guarantee that they're all going to be Joliet residents. You know what I mean? That's for me. From what I'm hearing, people that are coming in, we're all compassionate. We all have hearts. But to me, I think there's going to be people coming here from all over. I mean, they're not going to be guaranteed Joliet residents, and that's kind of where I'm leaning. Take care of Joliet people, and that's where I'm leaning.
Well, and that will certainly be the priority in the selection plan. And so again, we would have to exhaust residents or potential tenants within this geography before somebody from another geography could even qualify.
I mean, do you have any type of numbers? I mean, right now we know we're going to get 20.
Well, we know
from Joliet. I mean, do you have any type of numbers yet, or?
Well, the problem-solving court of Will County, I don't know exactly of their within the problem-solving courts for Will County, which specifically is a court that deals with folks that as a diversion who are dealing with addiction and drug-related crimes. I cannot say specifically what percentage of those folks are from Joliet specifically, but I believe it is north of 50%. In terms of the DCFS field office, I think that, again, somewhere between 40 and 50% of the individuals served out of that field office are within Joliet zip codes. So again, I know 48 sounds like a lot, but when you're talking about permanent supportive housing, it's actually not that many. I mean, once the initial sort of lease up occurs, you're talking about, probably maybe about 10 to 20% of those folks, and then maybe probably about 20% a year would be, opened again. And so you're not talking about a whole lot of folks to refill those units on an annual basis.
Mayor, you're not here asking for any money, you're just asking for a zoning change, right?
Correct, for the use.
I just want to point out to Councilman Clement that the hospitals serve people from all over as well. Addiction recovery is something that is very important for women with children, and opioid addictions are just sky high. So we have plenty of people in Joliet, but just to be clear, for everyone watching, you're not asking us for any money. We're not putting any funds into this. We're just doing a zoning change.
Correct.
Mayor,
Thank you.
I have one question for staff. Jim, Tori, I was reading the zoning board meeting and there was a question from a resident about, has this 10 to 15 foot berm issue, was that any resolved?
There's no berm requirement for this.
I know, but someone brought forth and they said that staff was gonna look into it.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't remember that exactly. I could look into it and get
Okay.
back to you tomorrow.
All right,
with that.
I'll look it up, and I'm sorry to ask y'all all of a sudden. I
There
should
was
have called
another
you.
project, there was an issue before ours that had to do with a berm. I don't know if somehow in the notes it
Well, then
got.
maybe it was the minutes were mixed up.
Yeah.
They were too close together then. Okay.
Could be.
That's why I thought, I wasn't quite sure about that, so, okay. To go back and look.
Go ahead, Pat.
You'd mentioned average stay 1 to 3 years, that type of thing. Do you then work with the individuals on housing after this, or get them involved with other social organizations here in the community to help them find places, or how does that work
So
out?
again, our model is service intensive housing, which means we're providing services the entire time. And there's a treatment plan and a service plan that has a set of goals for the next 6 months, the next 2 years, the next 3 years. And always, particularly with this project, the goal is to get them to move on from the project, right? Is to become stable enough that they don't need the intensity of that particular level of support. And so, yes, we would be working with them from the day they arrived to create a plan for success for the day that they leave. Obviously it's not a locked facility, so somebody could choose to leave on their own before they've successfully completed the program. But our goal would be to be setting them up for a high degree of success the moment that they leave the project. And so that would be the goal from the very beginning.
So do these individuals have a cost to be there, or pay if you can, or how does that structure work?
It'll be 30% of their income. If their income is none, obviously they would not be paying anything. But we believe it's important that everybody has, some contribution to their living experience that is proportional to what their capacity is. And we don't want income at the point that we're trying to support them to be a reason that they can't get into a safe living environment.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you all very much for your time and consideration.
All right, very good. Then the next item on the agenda under ordinances is Council Memo 652-23, an ordinance amending Chapter 12, Section 13 of the Code of Ordinances on ambulance services and fees. What this will do is tie our annual ambulance service fee charge to what our calculated cost is each year. We're required to submit to the Illinois Department of Health Care and Finance our actual cost. And up to this point, we have not had a method within the ordinance to allow that cost to go up without bringing it back to council. The last time you reviewed it was in 2019. So this language change essentially says that each year, whatever that calculated cost is, that'll be the new fee for the upcoming year. Next is council memos. There's 3 items that are related, 654, 655, and 656. These are each community development block grant subrecipient agreements. These are funds that you had already approved as part of the 2024 annual action plan under our CDBG program. The first one, Council Memo 654, is subrecipient agreement to Catholic Charities Diocese of Joliet for the Daybreak Emergency Shelter in the amount of $195,000 to assist with renovation of the men's dorm bathrooms and facility updates. Then moving on, the second item is Council Memo 655-23. This is the subrecipient agreement to the Will Grundy Medical Center. This is in the amount of $52,000 to help renovate their facility, 213 East Cass. And then the third item related to this is 656-23. This is the subrecipient agreement with Court-Appointed Special Advocacy, or CASA. And this is an amount of $24,852.70. Will actually be used to fund an attorney to represent children's needs during the court cases in the year. CASA expects to serve over 40 Joliet children this year. Any questions on any of those items? Next council memo then is 657-23. This is a resolution approving a grant to the Joliet Area Historical Museum for 2024. The total grant amount is $250,000. It's broken out in the grant proposal that $25,000 to be spent on regularly scheduled public events and educational programs held at the museum. $125,000 is allotted to the administration of public operations for tourist programs and special events at the old Joliet Prison Historic Site. And the remaining $100,000 is to the administration and public operation of tourist programs and special events at the museum, City Center campus, and the Union Depot Tower Rail Museum. Any questions on that item?
Is there someone here to ask a question from the Joliet area?
Yeah, Greg Peerbolt is here from the museum.
If he wouldn't mind coming up, that would be great. Can I just ask you, first of all, I want to ask our finance director, is this the only monies that the historical museum will be getting for the next year? Is this it, or is there something else?
Paid directly to the museum, just this.
Okay, because it looks like payroll. Is this payroll?
Part of it, yeah, for operations would be for payroll.
Will there ever be an anticipated time where you'll be making your own payroll? I'm just curious.
Sure. Well, our payroll currently, as budgeted, it's $900,000. So there'll always be a need. I think we're about down to $750 for payroll. But you know, in discussions with Kevin, capital versus operating, I think the service we provide is keeping city-owned property or city-managed property open to the public. So with money for programs, yes, there is some payroll consideration, but it does not get close to covering our entire payroll.
Okay, and I'd love to have a historical committee meeting because there are some issues that I would like some answers for too.
Sure.
So outside of that, maybe we can make that happen.
Anytime.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Next item is Council Memo 658-23. This is a resolution authorizing the execution of an agreement with the Joliet Area Historical Museum. Essentially, this is the companion resolution for their 2024 agreement with the city to run the museum. Next item is Council Memo 659-23. This is a resolution authorizing the execution of an amendment to our lease with Will County regarding the 10 South Chicago Street property. That lease term ends at 12/31 of this year, and they've requested to extend it on a month-by-month basis. Questions? Council Memo 660-23 is the next item. This is a resolution approving the authorization of executing a collective bargaining agreement with the Illinois Fraternal Order of Police, Labor Council, and Joliet Police Supervisors Association for 2023 through 2025. The contract with the police supervisors that we have ended at the end of 2022. The new contract then is for this 3-year term for 23, 24, and 25. You have the key highlights of the changes proposed in the agreement with increases in 23 of 2.49%, 24 of 2%, and in 25, 3.25%, as well as the 18-year step that's been added and retroactive to 2021.
I have a question. And this is more, Mr. Tonelli, I want to know, it's not necessarily for me, but I want everyone at home to know. So I want to know if you'll let me ask Kevin Singh the question.
By all means.
Kevin, I called our finance director today because I wanted to know if there was money in the budget for it, and he did give me an answer, but I would like everyone at home to know the answer to that.
Short answer is yes. Yeah,
Okay.
we did put additional compensation monies in the budget to help cover this.
So that was already in the budget that we approved. Okay, thank you.
Mayor?
Yes.
Yeah, for me, you know, we just got this Thursday. I got a chance, you know, I was looking at it Saturday, but it didn't pull up on my tablet here. But anyway, we have a new city manager coming 8-9 days from now. I don't see any harm in pushing this down the road a couple weeks or till she gets a chance to look at it, and then we can go from there. I think that would be the responsible thing to do. That's just my opinion. Those are my comments, basically.
So if we do that, everything's retro to the start of this contract anyway, so.
Correct.
It won't hurt anything
Yep.
to take a better look. Nobody's really had a good chance to look at it, so I don't think that would cause any issues.
We asked for you to consider it on this agenda. Again, the supervisors were asking to get it done during this period. It's been, you know, agreed to, been the temporary agreement. And to the other side of that point, Councilman Clement, that the new manager hadn't been part of or worked through the negotiations, and it might be unfair to burden her with trying to conclude something that she had no involvement with. But your prerogative, whichever way you would like to do it.
I mean, yeah, for me, she's gonna be here long-term, I hope, right? And I think we owe her that. This is a big deal. These contracts are big deals. And I stand here today, if it was any other union, I would say the same exact thing. You know, if it was asked me or anybody else, I think she should be able to look at this. And again, it's not gonna hurt anything another 2 weeks or a month at the most. I mean, they've been waiting anyway. Negotiations have been going on. I don't think it hurts anything, so.
Mayor?
Can we ask legal, do we have any obligation since it's already been negotiated?
The council has no obligations whatsoever.
Okay, but I mean,
Mayor?
we're trying to mitigate risk.
That dovetails great to what I'm gonna say. I agree with the councilman that we should delay it. I have questions. Did not have an opportunity to see it until late afternoon Thursday. Only got it maybe 48 hours before the media got it. We all saw it in the media. This is not how we did it in the past. We were kept abreast because we are the ones that have to vote up or down on it. I didn't even realize that you were actively negotiating. I assumed there would be some negotiations since they ended as of January 1st. We weren't kept abreast of this. I don't think it's proper for me to ask the list of questions I have here publicly because it's still, basically, I don't care who signed. Did anybody sign a TA?
Yes,
By what authority?
by my authority.
You should have probably talked to us because you don't know how we're gonna vote and we're the ones that gotta approve this. So, I would agree that with Councilman Clement, that it needs to be looked at, you know, and we all have to have a chance to have our questions asked and answered in a negotiating atmosphere, which would be an executive session, since it hadn't been done and was released just a couple of days ago.
Can I ask you, what's a TA?
Tentative agreement,
Thank you.
okay. Meaning, we're gonna do it as long as your body approves it, but we were never consulted.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
Just a side note to back it up, in the past, we have been informed of what the negotiations were and what was going on. And council, we're like mushrooms in the dark again, just like, you know, do whatever you want, pay no attention to the new city manager coming on board. You won't even let her hire her own staff, so I guess the interim decides he's gonna do what he wants to do, whether instead of listening to the council, but I do think that was not fair that we did not know anything. This is another blind side about this contract being TA'd. I'm not saying I'm against it, I'm just saying I don't like the way it went down.
That concludes what's on the agenda. Mayor, to review.
Next is public comments. Amy Gallo.
It's my first time ever doing this, so if you guys can't hear me, I'm sorry. So, my name's Amy Gallo. I'm sure my name rings a bell from my son Tyler Gallo that was in the tragic accident on April 14th, 2023, in the motorcycle accident on the frontage road in Pandola. So I'm here to ask if we can put something on that frontage road to save the speed, whether it be speed bumps, whether it be more lights, whether it be stop signs, whether it can be something. That road, every time I go to his memorial site, they're doing 80 and 90, just cars in general. That's not even the motorcycles in general. With this accident that happened, we lost 2 lives on this day. And I don't want anyone ever to have to live what I'm going through, and my son and my grandkids, anyone to ever. And if we can reduce the speed somehow, it would save lives. I don't wish this on anyone. I also have a post from a Joliet resident I would like to read real fast since I only have 4 minutes. She says, and I don't know who this resident is, it was just out there. This will not be a post that many positive replies, and I'm okay with that. But we all should be considered. My house backs up this frontage road. I am between Pandola and Theodore. This frontage road becomes a drag strip as soon as the nice weather hits. Over the last decade, I have seen more accidents turning off the frontage road onto Black Road and on the frontage road itself than I've ever imagined. This road needs speed bumps or a new light that accommodates both sides of the frontage road from Black Road. I have spent many nights with the police lights, fire department lights, ambulance lights, flashing lights inside my house due to accidents and reckless driving on this road. The frontage road is not safe. Now we have 2 deaths in one night. Something needs to be done, and now. So I'm here to stand for you today. It took a lot for me to come up here, but something has to slow down the speed. Not saying either party in the accident of April 14th was right or not right, but something needs to be done on that whole frontage road. And I don't think if nothing's done, there's going to be more lives taken. And thank you for hearing what I have to say.
Thank you.
Mayor.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chief, can we put a speed trailer there and get some data so we can see?
Sorry, I got
to see what's going on over there?
From one end of frontage to the other end, there's no stop signs in between, so it's literally, you go through, and my parents lived in Longleat for 40 years. It was just cornfields, and we call that dead man's curve. And all of these years later, from frontage road to frontage road, there's nothing, there's no stop signs in between. Even if there was a stop sign at every entrance to the subdivision, and there's only a couple, if that could save lives, that would be fantastic, because yeah, and I'm sorry for your loss. I'm very sorry for your loss. Can someone in Public Works figure that out?
So I did speak to Ms. Gallo on Friday about her coming here to talk. We've done a very, very preliminary look at that road. Just a couple items. It is signed for 35 miles per hour. I highly doubt that the majority of the traffic is going 35 miles an hour, but there is a 35 mile an hour speed limit there. We started to pull accident reports for the last 5 years. At this particular intersection, it looks like there was 7 accident reports there over the last 5 years. 2 of them appear to be intersection related. One was somebody hitting a deer, that type of thing. So we'll look at it further is all I can say. Okay. Just hearing this on Friday, we haven't been able to take a deep dive look at this. It is a 2-mile stretch from Black Road up to Caton Farm Road there with limited intersections. So the speeds are probably going to creep up there on that road for certain. But we can take a closer look at what could be done or, you know, signage, additional traffic control, whatever it might be.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak under public comments?
Oh, Mayor, Council, I'm here to speak on, I've had several issues with my neighbor. I'm here to speak about one specific issue, and that's that flying middle finger flag. 2 weeks ago, I talked to Ms. Troper, and I mentioned to her that I don't know if it was her or Mr. Fleischhauer that I spoke with about the flag is in such a state of deterioration that she bought a new one, a new flag. And I told Ms. Troper that either her or Mr. Fleischhauer, I says, when this deteriorated flag is such that she's gonna take that down and put the new one up. And she did that. Thursday, she put the new one up. Now, I've spoke about this for over a year. She put that first flag up, and that's obscene to me. That's terrible. I don't know why she's getting away with that, but I was thinking that because the kids on the corner see this flag daily, I was thinking that, well, what if I get a bigger flag and put in my yard to block the view? I don't want to have to listen. I don't want to have to look at that every day when I open my blinds. I shouldn't have to look at that. So I'm thinking, what if I put a bigger flag to block my view of her flag? I think that's maybe something I should look into, because apparently this is a freedom of speech issue that I can't see it being a freedom of speech issue. It's disgusting. So I'm weighing my options. I think maybe I can put a flag up and see if that would be my freedom of speech issue, to block her flag. So, okay, thanks.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak under public comments? Seeing none, there is a need for a closed session this evening. Is there a motion to go into closed session to discuss personnel, collective bargaining, land acquisition or conveyance pending or threatened litigation, and review of closed session minutes, after which we will adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Cardenas?
Aye.
Councilman Clement?
Aye.
Councilman Guerrero?
Aye.
Councilman Hug?
Aye.
Councilwoman Ibarra?
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin?
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon?
Aye.
Mayor Darcy?
Aye.
Motion carried.